Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast, and this is our Halloween episode. Basically, we are going to give different topics that we've talked about in the past, as well as Amanda and I are going to discuss Halloween kills. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson. Joining me today is my co-host, Amanda Sink.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Troy and John are off this week, so it's just Amanda and I, but you will hear John in one of the later segments. You're also going to hear Brian Williams, former host, Justin McCumber, former host, Scott Clark, former host. They're going to be in one of the segments for this Halloween episode, and we're also going to have Tony Moran, who was a actual Michael Myers. You're going to hear little snippets from our interview with him a year ago. So, woo! It's going to be a fun episode. I hope you have some interesting stuff to listen to. Yes, spooky. You know, like I said, this is a Halloween episode, so everything here is basically Halloween themed. And we're going to start with a discussion Amanda and I had on movies that force us to face our own fears. So I'm going to lead with that, and then we're going to be right back with Halloween kills. And before we get to Halloween kills, Tony Moran, who's also going to tell us about his stint as Michael Myers. That's right, not the shape, Michael Myers. Very important distinction, just so you know. And then later we're going to listen to a discussion on our horror movie survival guide, the 2 do's and the 2 don'ts to survive a horror film. And then, of course, we're going to get into psychological horror versus gore. Why do we like both, or either, or neither, or neither?
I like neither.
That's a lie.
No, I'm saying I like the word neither. You were going between neither and neither. Okay. I like neither.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. We got that settled. She likes neither. Let's get into when movies force us to face our own fears. When entertainment makes you face your fears, that is our From the Outside In topic this week. We're going to talk about when we get terrified by stuff.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, we're all deathly afraid of something. So if whatever you are terrified of appears on screen, can you finish through it, or do you have to turn away?
It depends on what it is. There's certain things that are like spiders or bugs. I close my eyes. I cover my eyes.
So you don't go seek out movies that are about bugs?
Hell no. A hard pass. There's a very slim chance that if I see that this is like it revolves around bugs, or if it's a horror movie where there's a lot of spiders and bugs, I'm not going to watch it. If I do, I'm covering my eyes during those scenes. And this is like not to be a child, but like I have this intense fear of them that like I've had nightmares for a very long time since I was in like 5th grade. And so I'll have
told you there's a spider right above your head.
Don't fucking say that.
Yep, works.
Not funny. Okay. Not funny.
I'm laughing on the inside.
But there's other things that like just petrify me because and it shakes me to my core, and I can try to sit through them, but then those also like that's just more of a discomfort.
Like what's an example of that?
Any like rape or assault scenes, those are really, really hard for me to sit through. But like any horror where it's just gore and somebody's getting chopped up or blood's everywhere, like none of that bothers me. And of course that like scares me if it were happening to me, but I'm able to separate that this is all just make believe on screen. But for whatever reason, when it comes to things that like really emotionally I connect with or terrify me, it makes me uncomfortable to my core. So I just have to really try to either turn my eyes, cover my eyes, or really sit through it. And sometimes it's hard.
I really like when movies tap into something I'm terrified of. Because if they do it right, it's usually, it's hard to scare me. I've seen so many movies. It's fascinating when they get it right. And if they nail it, it's terrifying. And I get into it. I'm like, yeah, that scared the shit out of me. There's when, I have I'm petrified of bees. That's one thing I'm petrified, just absolutely petrified. Very rarely do I see a good bee movie though. I've seen good bee movies, but I've never seen a really good bee movie. Yeah, bzz movie. So that's never really been something that's gotten to me, except one case, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But needles in fingertips.
Like where they go on between the skin and the fingernail?
If there's certain movies where you see that they're torturing people or something like that. anything where you rip a fingernail off or you stick a needle in the tips of somebody's fingers, anything like that, that gets me. I don't know why that bothers me so much. Maybe my mom used to pull my nails off. I have no idea. But that is something that just freaks me out. Legitimately creeps me out, freaks me out. And I have a hard time watching it. If it happens, like Saw movies, that stuff happens every now and again. Those are the scenes I can't watch. I can watch you literally peel flesh off somebody's face. Mm-hmm. But if you peel a fingernail off, I can't watch that. And I don't know why.
I really don't. I'm scared of ghosts, and it's because I lost
fake things. Okay.
Yeah, I lost somebody who was very important to me when I was younger, and I always had this really weird, very weird, irrational fear that they would always be able to watch me like a ghost. So I was scared sometimes to take showers alone if it was dark outside or something, because then I was
you got to worry about cameras.
I know, there's all of these things. But that was one of the things that started to scare me as I got older into my adulthood. I wasn't too terrified as a child to watch any ghost things, but now they get me. But I'll still watch them. I can sit through it and I don't turn my eyes away, but I grip on. I'm like, oh, it's going to come. It's going to happen. It's going to get me. It's going to get me. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. It takes a lot for it to actually
Do you get haunted? Do you go home and you have nightmares and stuff?
That happened one time in particular. I remember where just it messed my whole life up. And that was when I saw Paranormal Activity.
Oh, yeah.
I went home and I couldn't even pee with the door shut. I had it open and there was just no way I was closing the door.
But if you pee with the door open and the ghost pulls you, it's going to yank you out of the toilet. And then you're going to have pee all over.
But I'd rather be able to get out of that room than be isolated in that one containment with no windows.
Okay, let me explain this part to you. So if there were,
I'm looking over my shoulder now.
Hang on. If there were such a thing as a ghost, which doesn't exist.
I don't like talking about it even.
Well, don't worry. It's not real, so it's not going to bother. If there were such a thing as ghosts, your door is not going to make any difference.
I know.
Guess what? They go right through it. It's not like they get to the door and they're like, God damn it. Knock, knock, knock.
She locked the door.
Would you open it? Come on.
Sometimes it happens in ghost movies, though, where the door will just be shaking and shaking.
And it makes no sense. They're ghosts. They literally float all over. Apparently they can't get through wood. That makes no sense.
Wood is a barrier.
Oh, it drives me crazy when I see that happen in movies because you'll always see them float from floor to floor, but they get to a door and they're like, brr, 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 shaking the door.
It's probably just to scare you.
Yeah, I get that, but it's a dumb plot mechanic.
I feel like when
they're ghosts.
But they can shut the door also, and that scares me, where they can shut you and lock you into a room. In this bathroom, there's no windows. It's an interior room. It's not an exterior room. If I try to punch through the drywall, guess what? I'm still inside the house.
Guess what? If their ghosts are real, they're still there too. And they're going to be in whatever room. They're literally just hanging out in the bathtub, chilling, smoking a ghost cigarette, waiting for you to freak out. Because they're like, I'm in here, right? You can't keep me out. I'm a ghost.
Man, I'm starting to get really freaked out. I can't tell if it's spiders or ghosts that are freaking me. Sometimes I'll feel like I have spiders crawling on me if I think about them.
So do you really believe in them?
Ghosts?
Legitimately believe in them? Because if so, if there were ghosts, I'd be very concerned because I've done a lot of things I'm hoping nobody saw.
Yeah. I really hope that they don't exist, but I'm not the type of person, I don't think that they do, but it's one of those things where it's
back of your head.
It would scare me if it did exist. And that's just because of the movies I've seen over the years. I really do attribute that fear because I didn't have it when I was younger. And I think so watching it over time, it created a fear for me, especially after I lost someone. And I was always told I had a very religious family, so everybody was like, "Oh, they'll always be watching over you. They're always with you." And I'm that freaks me out.
What a terrifying thing to tell kids, right? Hey, they're always going to be watching you. Everything you do, as you walk to your car, as you take a poo-poo, it's just ew. Why are they stalking me?
I distinctly remember
You served your time. Go enjoy the heavenly gates.
I distinctly remember as a child, though, when I was in the shower, I was taking a shower, and I remembered that's when it hit me. And I thought about, all of the ghost movies I'd seen, and I was like, what if they're standing, right in front of me and watching me? And I was it freaked me out. So ever since then, I've had, this weird, irrational fear. It's not like a phobia. So it's not I can still go to sleep and think about ghosts or whatever before bed. It might freak me out a little bit, but I can handle it. But spiders, no. Doesn't matter how big or small. If there's a spider here, we're stopping the podcast.
This is true. I've actually witnessed this. It's happened. I'll be honest. If there's a bee here, I would leave.
Yeah.
I'd be done.
Yeah.
I'd be gone. I have literally abandoned people, friends, family, whatever, at every chance I could when a bee showed up. Yeah, I've literally abandoned people. I've left parties because there was a couple bees. I'm like, I'm out. See you guys. I'm not doing this because I'm legitimately petrified of bees. I'm phobic.
Yeah.
So no. And I have good reason. I'll talk about that. Well, I guess that's a good segue. Give me one example of even one instance where a movie forced you to face a fear for the better. Not for the worse, for the better.
Okay. So I created a fear of Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a youthful child because I had parents or a parent who didn't let me watch a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have, and I was fine with almost everything. But this movie in particular, and I don't know why, I don't know if it's because
Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one's terrifying.
It is really scary.
It's really well
I
done.
watched Halloween, and that's like real people that can kill you with a knife coming into your house, and that didn't bother me. Scream.
Because he takes so long to get there. I mean, you can't outrun your dreams. You know, you can outrun Michael Myers.
Can't. And it was like, that was the scary part is like you want to go to sleep and you're just like, oh my God, what if I go to sleep and he kills me in my sleep? So it was very scary.
How is this for the better?
Hold on, I'm getting there.
All right.
So I was petrified. I didn't even watch this movie by myself. I remember I was dating this guy when I was really young and like I wanted to watch the movie and I tried to watch it and I was like texting him or whatever.
Okay.
And I had to stop it. I was like, I'm a child. I was a teenager and I had to still stop the movie because I couldn't handle it. Well, then
why? It sounds like you weren't even paying attention to it.
I was, but it was freaking me out. So I told him I stopped it. Then in 2010, they remade the movie. And I went and I saw this remake.
I'm sorry.
Me too. But I'm also very happy because it made me not scared of Freddy Krueger anymore. It was so bad that it erased my fear of the original Freddy Krueger. Now I can watch the original Freddy Krueger and I'm not scared anymore.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
It was just so bad that I was like, are you kidding me? That's what I've been scared of? And it just took it away. Like now I can still appreciate the original. It doesn't take that away from me, but I'm not irrationally scared of the movie.
That's fascinating.
It's the only movie that's happened with.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like if you're scared about something, you're always scared about it or never scared about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So isn't it like Poltergeist? Isn't that one of your most terrifying? Are you still frightened of that one?
I'm not scared of it. I don't know. Maybe I was scared when I was a child and I don't remember.
You talked on the show before about
okay.
Yeah.
But it was one of my favorites. So at the same time, I still watched it.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was one of your favorites.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. But I did have a bad dream about Scream when I was a child, even though that's one of my favorite horror movies too. And that was just like, I remember I had a bunk bed and I had this dream that all of these ghost faces came into my bedroom with knives and they were going to kill me in my bed. And then I woke up.
Like a cult of ghost faces?
Well, you know how they have multiple of them?
A gaggle of ghost faces?
And then I went to the bathroom and I went back to bed and I didn't think about it, but I can still picture the dream now. As an adult, I can still see it, but I'm not scared of it. And I didn't have any more bad dreams about it. Okay. So I guess sometimes it goes away. It's very weird how my fears work.
Okay, well, here's mine that was for the better. It's going to sound weird, but it's true. Jaws, we're going to talk a little bit about Jaws later when we get to listener comments, but that's a movie that really kind of terrified me. Made me refuse to get in the ocean. I had a hard time with it for the longest time. Then I watched Free Willy, and I'm not making this up. I watched Free Willy, and because it's a kids movie. I watched it with my kids, and it's such a charming, sweet little movie about a gigantic killer whale. And I don't know why, but after that, I was open to going in the ocean again. And I hadn't been in the ocean because of Jaws since I was a kid. Actually, I don't think I'd ever been in there other than like to my ankles because of Jaws. Free Willy made me feel like, oh, you know what? They're not all bad. Maybe I'll be fine. So I'm being completely sincere. After Free Willy, I was able to go into the water at the ocean again.
That is really weird, but at the same time, it makes sense because you took away the bad. You replaced the bad with something that was positive and good.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful movie. I love that movie. So it was very charming.
Did you like the 8 that followed the first?
No. Mm-mm.
No.
Free Willy 2 is okay, but then it got stupid. And
just too much.
Yeah. So, but the first one was very charming. It's a very good movie. I really enjoyed it. Really cured my fear. Now flip that. So give me at least one example where a movie forced you to face a fear and it went poorly.
I'm giving you 2.
Okay.
There's 2 examples.
I bet you they both have spiders in them.
They do.
Okay.
One is arachnophobia. And
Really?
the other is, this one's even worse.
Because arachnophobia, in terms of listener picks, that was one of the most popular ones. So they're right in line with you. Like many, many people mentioned arachnophobia as a movie that petrified them.
8-legged freaks. That movie.
That's like so cartoony.
Scared the shit out of me.
It's so cartoony.
It does not matter. And I know they were like giant, like they look like robotic spiders, basically, because they're so bad.
Were, yeah.
It was really bad graphics.
CGI.
But it just, the concept of having spiders so big that they could crush because everybody always tells you, this is a favorite line I always hear, they can't hurt you, they're so small. Okay, well, what if they were giant dinosaur-size spiders that could crush me with, like, one of their little hairs? I can't even think about it.
Well, first off, people are dumb because they can hurt you.
They can.
Yeah, brown recluse, it can,
oh, God, I can't even handle thinking about this anymore.
Tarantulas can't hurt you. That's a myth.
Let's stop talking
That's
about
a myth.
this.
No, I mean, that's part of the topic. Sorry. But Arachnophobia is a movie I love.
Yeah.
Absolutely love
Well,
that
you're not
movie.
afraid of spiders, though.
I don't like them. Like, I don't want to hang out and have a party. We're not going to have a soiree later. That movie is probably the one spider movie I have a hard time watching because they present real spiders.
Yeah.
Like 8-legged freaks to me, it's just like a monster movie. It's
That's
like
what
watching
I'm
Godzilla to me. It's not scary.
It's
to
so
me.
outlandish. And I don't know why I was so scared of it, but I just remember like
It's like your nightmares being gigantic. I remember watching them when I was a kid, and that was pretty scary.
God, no.
Giant ants.
Just none of it. I also don't I don't even like ants. I don't even know how. So I used to love A Bug's Life when I was a child.
That's a little different. It's a cartoon.
I watched it now and I was like, no, man, I got to turn this off. No.
That's irrational.
No.
That's irrational. But I still say Arachnophobia is a really good movie. That's like one of the most enjoyable. I wouldn't even call it a horror movie, more like a comedy. Because there's a lot of humor in it.
There is.
It's really funny. And Jeff Daniels and John Goodman's great in that movie. It's just like a fun movie to watch. But yeah, the spiders you do get a little creepy, tingly because they're real spiders.
Okay.
So I've got The Swarm. That is a movie. I'm petrified of bees. I talked about that. And I have a genuine issue with giant bugs in general. I don't like giant bugs. I don't know why. But Swarm is an awful garbage dumpster of a movie. It's just so bad. It's Michael Caine took it so he could buy a house. That's literally what he said. I used that money, I bought a house. So he did the movie because he liked paychecks. And it terrified me as a kid because these bees were doing everything I had experienced as a kid. See, I was stung like 130 some times as a kid. 2 summers in a row. It was an awful, awful
130
existence.
times each summer
No,
or combined?
total 130 plus times. So I've been stung a lot. I still have nightmares of my grandma pulling the stingers out. One by one by one by one.
Where'd they sting you at?
Everywhere.
Like
everywhere.
in your booty?
Everywhere. Yeah, I got swarmed. Like legitimately, the swarm happened to me on
oh wow,
once on a roof and once on a playground. They love me, so I don't like bees. And I watched this movie, and it made my already existing fear like 10 times worse. So it was really, really not a good thing to watch. But I was trying to watch it because I've always been a fan of do that thing you're afraid of. I've always tried to do that. If I'm scared of something, I will try to do it to try to get over it. Bees are the one thing. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, but I still will abandon a small child if I can to avoid being stung by a bee.
That's unhealthy.
It might be. But I would not be stung. I would let the child, I would actually hold the child up like a shield. if I saw a swarm coming, I'd be like, take him! So it's something that's irrational, but that movie did not help at all. And Them is up there too. That one got me. Giant bugs, I don't like them.
I don't think there's many bee movies.
There's not, and there's never been a really good one. Which, The Wicker Man, I guess the original Wicker Man was a little scary. For some people, I didn't find it. I mean, yeah, that's a horrible way to die. because that's my nightmare.
Yeah.
But it didn't really scare me at all. So listener picks. We each pick 3 comments or films to read and discuss. My first one comes from Jessica Farrell. She says, anything Ouija. The Stupid Exorcist started a real fear about that one. Or Ouija, Origin of Evil was horrifying to me. Does that kind of stuff scare you? You talked about ghosts, but like Ouija and
when I was
and demons.
How old was I? I had to have been probably like 11 or something, and I found dial-up internet, and so I tried to be like Charmed and Buffy and tried to like see if I could be a witch or whatever. So no, I think I probably brought trauma onto myself by trying to invoke the spirits of like witchcraft as a child. Because they had all these websites, because it was when the internet was really starting to get a boom for things like this. So, no.
No.
I
don't buy into any of that, so none of that. Exorcist, everyone tells, it's my mom's, I believe, favorite horror movie.
You believe?
Well, it's that or The Birds. Those are 2 that she's really close to. Because she's terrified of birds, which is ironic that she loves that movie. But I get the facing my fear thing from my mother. But she loves The Exorcist. Like, it terrified her. And she made me watch it with her. She made me watch every horror movie with her. And that was one where I laughed like the whole time. I'm like, this is stupid. I never found it scary, but it's also only terrifying if you buy into it, and I don't buy into it.
It's really hard to buy into the concept, but it does freak me. Like, it makes me cringe a little bit when their like body snaps and they go in like weird positions.
Yeah, when they released the new version when she spider crawls or whatever, that was pretty freaky.
Yeah, those things get me just because it's like, that's not normal.
And she's jamming the cross in her hoo-hoo. That's not normal.
What? Gosh, weird things happen. Weird things.
All right, what's your first listener pick?
My first comes from Bessie Addit.
Okay.
Adoot? I don't know how you say it, Bessie.
What's that, Adoot?
She Canadian. And she said, Rosemary's Baby made me not want to have a baby for life. I could imagine that to be the case, especially if you were like, if she watched in her prime, like youthful teenage years, that would traumatize a person.
You really believe that you're going to be impregnated with the spawn of Satan?
Have you seen some of these children running around now?
I'm not disagreeing with that. That's probably a good point. There's a lot of, I think that's more of a parenting issue.
That is. Yeah. But
Spank
the devil's in all y'all.
Ground your kids. Take the phones away. It's okay. Take it away. Snatch it up. So one that many, many people mentioned was Jaws, and I want to talk about Jaws. That is a movie that, number one, I want to say holds up on repeat viewings. It's an amazing movie that it still holds up 35, 45 years later and feels like a movie that almost looks made today. I mean, it's just so well done, well crafted, taut, suspenseful, enjoyable.
I also think you should watch the making of if you haven't before.
The documentary on it that's on the Blu-ray is fascinating. It's wonderful. Watch
even if you watch like the clips and just to get an understanding of what the shark was and how they made that and all of the issues that they encountered in production.
The reason it's so terrifying is because
they couldn't use it.
Yeah. And shark's broken. Broken. So what did you're younger than I am. Mm-hmm. I obviously grew up with that movie. So my generation, I mean, dun, 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 dun.
Right. I mean, you guys watched it in pools, probably.
Yeah, that theme song came on everywhere you went, man. You're at school and people be like, dun, 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 dun. But you're of a younger generation. Would you watch it? Like, is that a big movie for your generation? Like, do people still watch it?
Yeah, we're all still very aware of it. I think generations even younger than me are still aware of it. And they still know the reference, even if they haven't seen the movie. It's just become that much of a classic and iconic. And anytime you're in the ocean, if somebody's like afraid of a shark, they reference Jaws or they make the sound, they make the music. And that's what I think is like really powerful about that movie is that it's transcending through so many generations and still affecting and creating fear within people who have never even seen the movie. Like did it make me scared?
Fearful of water at all? Because the sharks are real. Not necessarily 30-footers, but the sharks are real.
Well, I'm scared of the ocean in general because I'm afraid of anything that might be in there. Even fish freak me out. Like I had fish touch my legs one time and I was like, ah! But also a few years ago, I went into the ocean and within probably the first like 30 minutes or whatever, our group had seen a shark there. Mm-hmm. And it was at the shark bite capital of the world or whatever in New Smyrna Beach. in Florida.
Yeah, at least.
So I wanted to we got out pretty quickly. But I still think of Jaws when it happens, but the movie didn't freak me out necessarily. And I was also pretty aware of the making of, which I think helps a lot in taking away some of the fear. But I also think that it's really, really important for you to understand that piece of filmmaking, just like Rear Window and like all of the reworkings and dealing with change and issues on a production set and the way that those things have actually created fantastic pieces in cinema history.
Yeah, it's one of the most notable stories in cinema in terms of making of a film, and also just in terrorizing people. I mean, there's still people I know today that are afraid of going into the ocean because of that movie, and I still think of it every time I go in, even though Free Willy helped. I still get in there and go like, man, they do bite stuff. And so, I remember all the details that I learned from Richard Dreyfuss in that movie, because I'm like, well, he was a shark guy. I mean, obviously he knows what he's talking about. And I've actually gotten out there and I'm like, I feel like I'm Quint. I'm like, how do I harpoon a shark if I tend to see one? Is there a harpoon handy out here? Can I get to it before the shark gets me?
Punch him in the eyes.
Yeah, all that stuff doesn't really work, I don't think. I think once a shark bites you, you're kind of screwed. And now we're going to hear from Tony Moran. This is just a snippet from the full interview that we had with him, the original face of Michael Myers. He's going to tell you a few things about Donald Pleasence, Jamie Lee Curtis, The Mask, and getting confused with The Shape. Here's Tony Moran, and then we'll be back with Halloween Kills. And I know a lot of people don't realize this, but you only worked on the film for one day, right?
Right. Yeah, it was a 21-day shoot, and Donald Pleasence was only on it for 5 days, and it was a very fast shoot, and John Carpenter really didn't do any takes longer than three takes.
Really?
So yeah, because of the money.
Yeah,
there just wasn't enough money, and so everything was fast, and he had everything. He was brilliant, and a really nice, he's a good guy. He's a real good guy, but he was brilliant because, man, on every scene, he had everything blocked out ahead of time in his head and everything. So it was very, very well organized and quick.
Well, I've read that you signed on for this because Donald Pleasence was in it. Is that true? Why was he so important?
That's the only reason why I went on the interview. That's exactly right. Back then, Aaron, if you did a horror movie, that was just like a half a step better than doing like soft porn or pornography. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was the only way you could see tits and ass in a movie was either porn or horror. So if a producer and director heard that you did a horror movie, they thought that you degraded yourself and sold out. Because it just wasn't the same as it is now. I mean, it's nowhere near. You know what I mean?
So did he live up to your expectations?
Yes, he did. He did. He wasn't really a friendly guy. He wasn't unfriendly, but he was he kind of kept to himself. But his acting, it was brilliant, and he wasn't their first choice, Aaron. He was like their fourth or fifth choice. Everybody else had Christopher. What's his name?
Christopher Lee.
Well, Christopher Lee. He turned it down. The top heavyweights at the time turned it down as far as horror heavyweights. Mm-hmm. They all turned it down, and he took it. And the reason why he took it, I found out later, is because he needed the alimony money because he was on his fifth or sixth divorce or something. Yeah, swear to God.
That figures.
And then later on in his life, he said that doing Halloween was absolutely the very best thing that ever happened to his career. And I thought that was just great to hear. You know what I mean? Because Jamie Lee Curtis for years didn't want to be associated with Halloween. And by the way, she didn't want to do the movie either. Her mom is the one that talked her into it.
Really?
Janet Leigh. Yeah. She said, because she read the script and she kind of knew who John Carpenter was, because he had done Assault on Precinct 13 or whatever. But she kind of knew. She said, look at, you do this movie, and if it becomes a hit, you'll be on your way in no time, And so her mom is the one that talked her into doing the movie.
if anybody knows what what a horror movie could do for your career, it's probably Janet Leigh.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly right.
Were you pretty happy that Donald Pleasance is the guy that shot you then?
Yo, absolutely. Yeah. And if you watch this scene, it's pretty funny, man. I did this stunt, on the first shot. And I flew they said, yeah, you're going to get shot here, and I go, okay, you want me to because I was so athletic, I thought, I said, you want me to throw myself around or something, and they go, can you? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I flung myself backwards when he shoots me. And then I did that robotic move with the next, shots, right?
Right.
In the bedroom. But if you count, there's a total of 7 shots coming out of a 6-shooter. So he shoots me once, right?
Right.
And he said, I shot him 6 times. No, you shot me 7 times, bro. But anyways, and then when it's in the bedroom, it cuts to that scene, and he's shooting me. There's another 6 shots. So there's 7 coming out of a .38 revolver.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's a little unknown fact. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is one, I know you've been asked this a million times, but if you don't ask it, people get mad. In the 70s, psycho killers, they were never masked. And then here comes this part where you got a random guy, and you're wearing a William Shatner mask, which I think you didn't even know at the time. But now it's a classic. But then it was this low-budget horror flick. So did that mask ever strike you as a really odd choice at the time?
Yes, it did. And here's how that happened, how they figured out that mask. They knew that they were going to use a clown mask when Michael Myers is 6 years old, right?
Right.
But they absolutely knew that they were not going to use a clown mask when he became 21. But they didn't have any idea of what they wanted to use. They didn't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
So Tommy Lee Wallace, who was the editor and the set decorator on the movie, and he's actually the one that did the closet scene as Michael Myers, or the shape, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
He's actually the one that did that scene because he knew he had to punch through the wood slats of the door, right? And he knew exactly where to do it every single time, so that they spent as least amount of money replacing those wood slats on every take as possible. And that's how low budget the film was. And so he's the one that did that thing. But anyways, he was in charge of finding something, and nobody knew what they wanted. So he went around in Hollywood to all the stores, costume places and Halloween stores and so forth. And he came across that mask, and he said that when he saw it, it was like flesh colored, and had more sideburns on it and stuff like that. But he said he stood in front of it and he looked at it and he just kind of tripped out because there was really nothing to it. It was kind of featureless, And so he thought, man, if we just kind of paint it white and stuff, take the flesh color off of it and cut the hairs, some of the hairs off it, it could be pretty creepy because there's nothing to it. And that's how the mask came about. And plus, they were only $1.89 a piece. It's no lie. I swear, it's no lie. That's the true story. So when I saw it, I didn't know. See, I was never told I had to wear a mask.
Right.
What you probably heard before.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
So when I came there, I was like, oh God, what are you kidding me? I got to wear a mask in this movie? Because back then, there was no masks involved. It was all makeup usually, right?
Right.
On horror movies. This was really the first movie that introduced a mask. And I was just livid, but because I already signed a contract and everything, and I wasn't going to break that, and I was broke. So I needed the money too. So I did it. But yeah, it struck me as a weird mask, but I didn't care. I just wanted to do the scene and get it over with and get going.
And you had to wear Vaseline in your hair, that whole thing to keep so it didn't stick to your head, right?
That's right. Because I had a lot of hair. I shave my head now, but the mask is 100% latex, so to get it to slide off the head without any effort, you just put Vaseline in it, and it slides right off. But then you have to take that Vaseline out of your hair, and that was apple cider vinegar that I had to use to cut the oil. crazy.
Let me ask you a question, because so many people basically feel like they're experts on Halloween at this point. You know, so many people have researched it. Is there anything about the lore that people just get wrong, in your opinion, or misunderstand?
You know what? Yeah, you know what's happening lately? It's really weird, and it's like a clique or something. But there's a lot of people that really don't read, you know, or maybe they don't know how to read or something.
Okay.
And they call like say Nick Castle Michael Myers, and he wasn't Michael Myers. He was the Shape, and I got the credit as Michael Myers, and it's in the credits. You know, I didn't do it. You know, John Carpenter did that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so these people are pissed off that because I'm only in the movie for the last scene, even though there was a total of 6 different people that wore the mask in that movie. Even Deborah Hill did a few scenes with, you know, with the getup on. These people are like, you know, on the side of, it's weird. They take like sides or something, and it's like, what is wrong with you? You know, it's like, even when Nick Castle signs, he signs it the Shape because that was his credit.
Right.
That's the official thing, you know? And that's where people get really messed up. In fact, I saw a post just a few days ago on a comment on a post that somebody else made. And, you know, Facebook will notify you if your name is mentioned, right? So I go there. Oh, no, it was Instagram. It was Instagram. And this guy goes, no, no, Tony Moran didn't play Michael Myers. He was the one that played the guy that was unmasked in the movie. And like, what?
Well, that's Michael Myers.
It's really a weird post, and I thought the guy may have been drunk or something. Who knows? You know what I mean? All I say to my fans is, look, this is the credit I got. I'm not trying to brag or do anything. It's just the fact, you know. I got the credit as Michael Myers, the original Michael Myers, because the original comes from, it was the original movie. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But some people they're weird about it. That's the biggest thing right now is what's going on, is my point.
Well, they showed your face. You're Michael Myers as far as I'm concerned.
I know.
You know, because you're on set, it's a low-budget horror flick, you're not sure where this thing is going to go. When did you actually, at the time, realize this is going to be huge?
Yeah, good point. You know, I was we shot in April, and in August I get an invitation from John Carpenter or whatever, the production, you know, crew, to go see a screening of the movie for the cast and crew.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the most hilarious thing I ever heard, and I just threw the invitation away because I knew it was going to be a piece of crap and nobody's ever going to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, it's like 5 or 6 months in that the movie was done, right? And the movie, I found out later, was released in podunk theaters across America, and basically because no studios wanted to buy the movie yet, you know what I mean? Because it was a horror movie. Nobody, you know, didn't think it was going to blow up. Yeah, but the famous film critics at the time saw the movie, like Eve Siskel and Ebert, and gave it a thumbs up and everything. You know, everybody loved it, right? So when that happened, you know, then it started playing at the really good theaters. So I'm driving my Volkswagen down Sunset Boulevard and towards the freeway to get on the freeway after working, and I'm going by a town that's called Westwood, a very famous place in that area for a date night to go to dinner and movies, because the theaters are beautiful and huge and old and all that. And it even showed it on Quentin's movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that town. So anyways, I see this billboard of Halloween on Sunset Boulevard when I'm driving, and I'm shocked. I'm just can't believe this. And I see it and I go, you got to be kidding me. This movie's got a billboard in like Beverly Hills type area, you know? And so I start looking around and the movie's playing everywhere. It's playing everywhere. And it's like I said, about 5 or 6 months in. And back then there's no, you know, the only way you could see a movie was if it was still in the theaters, because there's no Blockbusters or On Demand or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed it's playing everywhere. And I turned to my girlfriend that night or the next day or whatever, and I go, have you noticed that this movie's playing everywhere? And she said, yeah, I kind of noticed that, I go, well, you want to see it or, and she goes, yeah, why not? Fuck it, So we go, and we go see it, and it's packed, and people are screaming at the movie screen to duck and run and all that, And I get halfway through, and I turned around and went, this movie's not too bad. And that's how I saw it. Wow. And that's how I figured out it was really big. You know what I mean? And then they called me up to do Halloween 2, which I got the credit for, although I didn't step foot on, I didn't do any filming because I told them no. But they said, okay, well, can we use your footage of your face from Halloween 1 and put it in Halloween 2 and we'll pay you and give you the credit? I'm like, sure. Sounds good to me.
What a great job. Halloween Kills, but it's streaming on Peacock. So it's streaming somewhere. So you can watch it at home safely.
You can. I wouldn't recommend. Well, you know what? Actually, I don't know. I'm very mixed about this. I feel like you should still probably go see it in theaters if you're planning to watch it, but just be prepared for it to not be the best.
Is there really a way to be the best of a Halloween movie?
The original.
Fair enough. Point set match. So our spoiler-free review, Halloween Kills. Halloween night when Michael Myers returned. It isn't over yet. It's not done. He's not done with apparently everyone in Haddonfield. He's going to kill them all. Minutes after Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and her daughter Karen, Judy Greer, and granddaughter Allison, Annie Matachik, I think I got that right the first time, left masked monster Michael Myers caged and burning in Laurie's basement. Laurie's rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, believing she finally killed her lifelong tormentor. But when Michael manages to free himself from Laurie's trap, his ritual bloodbath resumes. As Laurie fights her pain and prepares to defend herself against him, she inspires all of Haddonfield to rise up against their unstoppable monster. The Strode women join a group of other survivors of Michael's first rampage who decide to take matters into their own hands, forming a vigilante mob that sets out to hunt Michael down once and for all. And we should point out there's a lot of returning characters from the original film. You got Anthony Michael Hall's Tommy Doyle coming back. You have Lindsay coming back. There's a lot of characters that come back from the original that are in this film. I'm not going to say what their fate is or anything here, but I just want to point out that they also added some backstory. They added some police officer drama.
They did.
How did you feel first of that? How do you feel about them adding story elements to the existing movie? Because that made for a completely different story, especially for Officer Hawkins, who survived, by the way. Shh, spoiler alert.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it takes away some of the brutality of Michael when it wasn't him that actually murdered the cop. It was this other dumb cop who did it. So that makes it... I don't have a problem with adding backstory when it makes sense. I do have a problem with changing elements of the original story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that cop that never came up. I don't think. You got to remember, this is very important, and it's very confusing for a lot of people because these movies are all over the place because Jamie Lee Curtis already had her return in H2O, but apparently they just returned her and ignored that movie completely. Where's Josh Hartnett in all this? So these three movies, which is Halloween, Halloween Kills, and then Halloween Ends, which comes out next year. Those three movies.
Spoiler alert.
Are I'm just letting you know it's coming. It's happening. Are directly coming off of the original movie. Now, in the original movie, they didn't show how they captured Michael Myers.
That's true.
So
that's true.
That's not a backstory we've actually seen, only heard about, kind of. So, in the other movies, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, obviously not connected, 4, 5, 16, 14, 19, I don't remember where the numbers are, but all those other movies don't count. It's Halloween 1978, and then the Halloween from 2018, and this one and the next one.
I still feel like it takes away some of the power of him, though. I realize that it's based on the perception, because when they approach the house, the officer doesn't, he says that it's Michael. He doesn't say, I accidentally shot the guy trying to get Michael, because Michael was going to kill him. I mean, I think we all know that. But that does detract from some of the power, in my opinion, from an outsider's perspective. of, oh, okay, so that wasn't even him. But I do think it adds an interesting twist to it because I fully didn't expect it to go that way. And it makes you, I can see why someone would be more terrified of him coming back because they saw what he was capable of and they survived. And there's not that many people who have survived Michael.
True. And it is kind of an awkward death, I guess, for Pete McCabe, Officer Pete McCabe. He's played by Jim Cummings, by the way, who's actually been on our show for Thunder Road, which he did a few years ago. So he's a great director.
He's done a lot of good movies lately.
Yeah, he's a very good writer and director, so you should definitely look up his work.
As soon as I saw him in the titles, I was like, yay!
I was kind of bummed because he's a cop in Thunder Road. He plays Jim McNaught. I was kind of hoping he'd have that name or something, just as a nice little tie-in.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. They didn't do that. All right, so in this story, essentially, Michael Myers survives the trap that was set, barely burned. I would say barely. I mean,
yeah.
Right?
He got a little singe on his mask, but I think he was overall fine.
Looks like a little bit like a candle that was left out a little too long, or maybe a marshmallow that hovered a little too long.
Have you been to a hibachi restaurant and they do the fire in front of you?
Yeah.
And it's like comes at you and it feels really hot. That's the equivalent of what he experienced. He was like, ooh, that's a little warm.
Yeah, that's basically it. And then he proceeds to, take out a bunch of firefighters. And I'm only saying that, I know it's kind of a spoiler for those that are concerned. On the same token, they made a big deal about it because people wanted that pulled from the movie. They wanted the whole scene excised because, it was a shameful insult to firefighters. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, they were kind of trying to be heroes at the moment. So not really. And it's a horror movie. Honestly,
everybody dies.
Everybody's got a shot at dying. Literally, everyone in this movie has a shot at dying.
Yeah. I don't know. Then I would say that it's offensive to the babysitters who die.
That's where we should start.
Why are you going after babysitters? Huh?
Why do you feel the need? Why do you feel the need to attack the people that sit our children? You know what I mean? They're doing a very hard job. Nobody wants to do.
They do. And they're underpaid.
Always.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So what did you think about this storyline? The whole storyline is he's coming back. And we don't want to say where he's headed because I don't want to spoil that aspect of it for anybody. But on the same token, we did learn in the last movie that he's not actually on a beeline for Laurie Strode because they're not actually related in this version. All the other versions they were. In this version, they're not. I still think that's a weird way to... Can I just ask you in respect to that?
Sure.
Does that bother you? Do you think that's just like a weird change when every other movie, I realize that we're ignoring all those movies, but on the same token, that's a big shift that we're not related to Laurie Strode.
It doesn't bother me as much because to me, I look at the original, the 1978, and that's what is canon, if you will. I don't see all of the follow-ups as being canon. Maybe I should, I don't know, but I don't. So I kind of base it on Michael as the character in the first one, his relationship with Laurie and there was no indication that they were related. So I'm fine if somebody's like, you know what, this kind of veered off in a weird way. I have a cooler, better idea where they don't have to be related. But she just essentially wants to take him out because of all of the trauma she's experienced. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay. I like the angle of it. I like the survival angle, the survivalist angle. Yeah. I mean, some of that aspect I do really like. I just feel like, I mean, essentially you're changing my entire childhood because I grew up thinking they were related.
Yeah, but I feel like Michael, at least in the first one, he didn't feel that intentional. Like the way I've always perceived Michael Myers is that his mind isn't there. It doesn't exist. Like he's just a robot that if you he's just going to try to get home. That's all he cares about is getting home. And I really liked that they brought that to this movie where it's like, if you get in his way, he's going to murder you. Mm-hmm. But if you stay out of his way, he's not going to go super far out of his way to kill you. But at the same time, he did, he had some stalking. So was it just somebody that caught his eye or, so maybe there was some more intentionality to his character.
Well, there's less babysitters working right now. because everybody's freaking out because this guy's on the loose. So he's just got to kill regular people now. What a bummer.
He's got to kill firefighters instead.
Exactly. That's
the next heroic worker.
They're the next step up from babysitters. Like it's babysitters, firefighters.
I mean, do you want to deal with your 4-year-old and your 2-year-old? No,
call.
That's why you paid someone.
It's really a good call, if you think about it.
Who's the hero? I'm just kidding.
Now, this movie has an angle of a vigilante mob, and obviously this was filmed before recent events of the past year and whatnot, so it's not like pulling from that, just a happy coincidence, I guess. But this does kind of look at how people that are affected by trauma might react in the face of additional trauma. And now they're saying it's a new angle, but they've kind of approached this in different ways in other movies where, a killer's on the loose and a bunch of them get together and they end up killing the wrong person or something along those lines. But that's not quite what happens here. But it is very much a vigilante mob that goes after people just assuming they're Michael Myers. So what did you think of this aspect of using survivor's guilt to kind of fuel this mob to go after the mighty Michael Myers? Seems like a dumb plan, honestly, when you see how many people he's killed.
Yeah, but I actually did like it because it adds an insight, which is a little more unusual to a slasher flick, to posing the question of like, given the right circumstances, everybody has some demon inside of them, and it can easily be manipulated based on our fears and based on our trauma. When you think about people who defend themselves and they black out and they have no idea how much brutality they've done, it's because their fight or flight response is kicked in and they just do, they kind of go haywire. And I think that's what this was focusing on. And I kind of liked that, is how chaotic, this serial killer can make an entire town, because they've essentially been tormented and they probably all have PTSD in one way or another. And so
definitely
the chaos that it brings about to have that revived and to feel like they were that close to getting rid of him and to not have it done, when they're like, you know what, let's just all get together and just they kind of dive into their animalistic roots as humans, their protective instincts, and they say, nah, we're going to get this guy. It's not that easy because he's supernatural now.
They're saying
it's been confirmed.
Yeah. Well, it's confirmed, but on the same token, the director keeps saying in interviews that he's not. That I believe he's
okay, but he said that in his script.
Yeah.
Like there was literally conversation where Laurie Strode is like, he's not human anymore. He's beyond the point of, he's beyond the point of human. So sorry about your interviews, but your dialogue says the complete opposite.
That's awesome. Your point of reference is wrong, plain and simple. I mean, look at your own movie. I mean, you made it. It's very simple.
Did you forget?
Yeah. So that is that end of it. And, I'm kind of with you in that sense. I do like that they introduced that angle, the whole mom mentality. I thought Anthony Michael Hall was great as Tommy Doyle. Honestly, I mean, I honestly could follow a whole movie with him because he's always been an actor that I've admired, especially after the 80s movies, because he kind of evolved and totally looks different. He's bulkier. He's more threatening, imposing. And he has moments where he realizes he was wrong about something, where he's exacting anger and rage and also carrying a lot of pain and guilt. And I think he does a very good job, especially for, kind of a low budget horror movie. Not to give it additional props just for that, but he carried himself well. I really enjoyed Anthony Michael Hall's Tommy Doyle. Not quite Paul Rudd from the previous movie where Paul Rudd was Tommy Doyle. Completely different take on the character.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, there was an aspect that you didn't like because you actually liked this movie less than I did, which
is surprising.
It is surprising because I actually like the last movie less than you did. Mostly because I thought it was just a retread of H2O. Here I felt at least I'm getting something fresh. So what didn't you like about Halloween Kills? What really that you can say without getting too spoilery?
Yeah, I won't get spoilery. But the funny thing is, I thought the reason why this hit me and made me not like it as much as I thought I would actually enjoy it, because I did like the last one. I thought that would be the same reason you didn't like this. Because Danny McBride, who I normally don't have a problem with, you have a problem with Danny McBride in general.
Sure don't like him. Yep. He's the same guy in everything. He's literally the same guy in everything.
But even for writing credits, he doesn't bother me, because usually I find it, I can get on his sense of humor. And don't get me wrong, there were moments where I did kind of like, chuckle a little bit inside. But it was so forced with the humor in so many ways, where it's like, we're going to make this a horror comedy. And that tonal shift for me that didn't exist as much in the last movie, certainly didn't exist in the first original movie, is now being brought in here. And I was just really taken back by it, because it felt like it overpowered the tension, and it sliced through that, and it took away from the impactful moments that should have been impactful. And don't get me wrong, I really did like Little and Big John, who are the kind of stereotypical hippie gay guys or whatever, but there were just so many moments where it was so forced. Like, somebody goes into a room and they have to jump into the room because they're afraid he's there. And I was like, nah, no. And it's not on the actor, it's on the writing. That's in direction. That's how they wanted it to be presented. And I think that this is my perception, it has to do with Danny McBride's influence. And typically I don't have a problem with him, but this is just not the area for it for me. And it wasn't balanced. It's not like they tried to do it quippy and witty like Scream does humor. This is just, we're just going to try to be funny.
Yeah, I thought that some of the humor was forced. I mean, I do like when horror movies have a bit of that, when they have just a bit of comedy, just a little bit, just to break the tension. You know what I mean? I just really enjoy that in a good horror movie. It did feel forced, as does most of Danny McBride's comedy to me. It just feels like somebody trying to jam a square peg into a round hole every time.
It also felt like two completely different voices that were trying to merge in the movie, because you have a more methodical or less methodical and more just using tension to create scare and anticipation and, watching him stalk his prey sort of thing, versus these jump scares. Like, those are two very different and distinct approaches to a horror movie. And some of the kills were so grotesquely ridiculous that they wanted to make you laugh about it.
Yeah,
and I was just like, I'm fine. I love over the top, but like, now you guys are trying to find a way to make Saw funny. And that's just not, I don't know. It just, that tone felt so divided in the movie, where sometimes it went that way and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, and you brought up a comment, especially in your review, where you're referencing your written review, which is available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com.
Love the plug.
You have a mention where the way that Michael stages victims in this movie is just ridiculously out of character based on previous movies, and I would agree I would disagree that he never stages them, because if you go watch the first movie, he definitely does some staging, with
not with candy sprinkled around him, though.
Right, and the silver shamrock masks. I mean, did he go and hunt down some silver shamrock masks? I don't understand, because I mean, I don't recall them just being handy, but I know the kids had some masks, I guess, so maybe he got them from them or whatever. But it just felt. I agree with you in that respect. There's a bunch of people that are laid out on a merry-go-round, and they're place silver shamrock mats on their heads. And it's just like, why is he taking the time to do this? I mean, that just feels like, because it's a wide open space, that one really does feel out of character. It doesn't feel like Michael Myers. And I'm not telling you who died. I'm just saying, this is just a moment in the movie.
There was candy perfectly sprinkled around, because obviously they're from, there's some trick-or-treating candy. It's Halloween night, right? Mm-hmm. So, but he sprinkled candy around their bodies on the merry-go-round, and also spun it before he left, so that way it would be spinning when the people showed up. It was just like, okay, man, first of all, those things don't last for more than 10 seconds in terms of spinning. And you've already told me as an audience member, he's far away from this by now.
That's the wind. The wind.
Yeah, so windy.
With all
so
that
windy.
weight on it, the wind is blowing it around. Sure.
But there's another posing, another staging that didn't bother me as much. It was like he used an image of someone that was like right next to their bodies and was like, oh, I'll prop you up like your picture. And it's like, oh, that's kind of, that's more subtle in terms of staging. I'm cool with that. But when you start sprinkling candy and spinning the merry-go-round, that's when I start to go,
And literally using the masks from Halloween 3. Why on earth are they still making them? You know what I mean?
Did they buy them?
So does that also mean, and that's kind of a trick, and I get it's an homage and whatnot, but on the same token, it's an homage to your own franchise. So you're kind of saying, well, that kind of thing did happen at some point.
No, that's actually a really good point. Because if you are paying an homage to a movie, you have to respect that timeline. And
it's a little
that
too
would
meta.
make all of these events not possible or skewed.
So in review terms, if $10 is full price of admission, what do you give Halloween Kills?
$5.50. I mean, overall, it is still a movie that I enjoyed for being a horror movie. Like, it was average. I would watch it, but for a Halloween movie, that's where I didn't like it.
Yeah, I would give it 6. I mean, I fully enjoyed it. It was very much a Halloween movie. I actually like it more than I like the last movie, probably because I think the last movie, it takes like an hour to get going. And,
yeah, that's true.
And it also rehashed a lot of H2O, in my opinion. So to me, there wasn't a lot of fresh material. It was just basically the same movie over again. Just now they're not related. And that kind of annoyed me. I did love the ending of the third movie, or the last movie. And this movie kind of makes me mad that they even made this movie. So, because it kind of retcons that really kick-ass ending of the first movie where all 3 women fooled him and beat him. And now, of course, well, that didn't work. So it's a waste of time. Pisses me off in some aspects.
And the one thing that's really pissing me off about David Gordon Green, who's the director and one of the writers, is he keeps showing us Michael's face. That was something I didn't like in the last one, and it's something I didn't like in this one. We don't have a full glimpse of his face like we did before, but even just putting a light on it from a distance where I can make out his facial features. Mm-hmm. Don't do that to me. Don't you do it. He wears a mask for a reason, and the audience should never see it.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I can respect that. And now we're going to go to the Halloween Horror Survival Guide, where Justin McCumber, Brian Williams, and Scott Clark and I did a discussion on do's and don'ts. This is a snippet from a much older episode, but I just thought it was kind of fun for this Halloween episode for you guys to check that out.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then we're going to come back with psychological horror versus gore with myself, Amanda, and John Davenport. So those will be the 2 segments that final this out. So thanks for listening to that. And remember, you can always find more information at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. You can email us feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com, and be sure to do that. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, and also be sure to check out past episodes, man. Share the wealth, spread the love. Tell your friends that you'll listen to the Hollywood Outsider. It helps. Now we're going to our From the Outside In topic this week, and we wanted to have a little bit of fun. Halloween's coming up. We always kind of do like a Halloween topic. We're themed. We like to theme it every now and again. So this is basically our horror movie survival guide. Yeah, that just happened. Horror. We're going to do the do's and don'ts of horror movies. But before we get to that, which is basically like every time we yell at somebody, don't do something, we have to say what the do should be. So we're going to do that. But before we get to it, why the hell does Hollywood still use so many cliches in horror films anyway? I mean, characters are constantly doing dumb things. Do studios just want us yelling at the screen? Does anyone have any... Scott, what do you think? Do you think they just keep putting cliche after cliche after cliche because they know it works? Or what?
Well, I think it does work to some extent, but for a couple of reasons. I mean, first off, what's cliche to us is a fresh idea to somebody else. Even though it's been done a million times, not everybody has seen every movie. Not everybody has watched nearly as many movies as critics like us do. There's always going to be some kind of new audience. And the second reason I think is that just some cliches just are never gonna die, even though they're done over and over again, and we're just always gonna remember them. They're just not gonna go anywhere. 200
episodes, and Scott finally said us instead of you guys. Good for you. Nice job, Scott.
He's all grows up.
It's like you've been watching movies for years now or something.
Yeah, 4 years.
Wow.
Didn't watch any before that, but
I know. Brian, what about you? What do you think? Why do they keep doing it to us?
Yeah, they work. I mean, it's just plain and simple. Unfortunately, it works. It's crazy because Scott's exactly right. You know, they those of us that are more, part? Yeah, that's what's my mind's blown over that. You've got to create some sort of anticipation, and I don't know, they it's so stupid, and those of us that have seen 100 movies, it's obvious to us, and it's old hat, and it doesn't scare us. But the good side of that is, the silver lining, so to speak, is when you do see something that is fresh and different, you know, we're so amped about it, we kind of tell everybody else, you know, hey, you got to see this movie. So I don't know, they work. Even though we're expecting it, I think on some level it still works for some of it, you know, for those of us that are more, I guess, in tune or astute or whatever you want to call it. But
in stew, is that what you said?
Astute.
Oh, astute. That makes more sense.
Yeah,
because in a stew just seems silly.
Well, I think we're kind of jaded altogether anyway, just with horror movies in general. I was talking to Zach from my show last night when we were recording, and he was talking about how there are horror movies that it's hard to even get him to be even a little bit creeped out anymore. Horror movies are almost comical to him at this point because he's seen so many and nothing scares him anymore. Mm-hmm. But then if you go to any of these movies on opening night, there are hundreds of kids in there that have never seen some of this stuff and are screaming their heads off, having a blast because they're getting freaked out.
That's a really good point. Jaded. And I got to be honest, I've generally thought of it very selfishly. That's actually a very good point, Scott. I've always thought, well, I've seen this 100 times. Don't they realize that I've seen it 100 times? Make a movie I want to see. Me.
The problem is that there's not a whole lot that's going to freak us out anymore.
Well, I haven't been scared in years, but I still love horror movies. I mean, there's very, very few things that I get unnerved every now and then. Unnerved is the word I like to use, because if I can feel my hair tingling on my arms, that to me works. That works a lot more than boo scares and stuff like that. But when characters do dumb things, I don't understand why they still do that. Because
have you looked around?
But real people in those situations, I've been in, like, well, I guess there are a lot of
I don't know. Have you been in a lot of situations where a demon's chasing you through the forest? Because
just like twice.
I mean, I'll be honest, that hasn't yet happened to me, but I'm just one person.
I mean, honestly, in the true scenario, you crap your pants and then you cry and as you look at your soiled underwear, right? That's pretty much what happened. And then you die. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that people do dumb stuff all the time in the real world. So why wouldn't they do something stupid?
Yeah. I mean, have you seen some of these videos where these practical jokes are being played on people where they scare the bejesus, and I watched one guy throw something out of his window and jumped out the window when somebody was scared. It's like he grabbed like a toaster or something and just threw it out the window and then just jumped straight out of it.
Absolutely true. I've seen a number of those where they'll rig up an elevator so that it'll stop and the lights go out, and when those lights go out, a little girl crawls in looking like a ghost. They turn the light back on. People scream. They jam themselves into a corner and just start praying to God that this thing goes away. I've seen it where they'll put people on a subway and stop it. Lights go off. Lights come back on. Zombies are coming. They freak out. They do dumb things. That's just the nature of humanity, unless you go through some kind of SEAL school training where you get your fear under control. People lose their minds. And I'm sure that if I were walking down a corridor in a hotel and all of a sudden I saw a demon or angry spirit, I would be the first one screaming and just running in mortal terror. That's just what people do.
I've seen a couple of those, and my first question is, when these pranks happen, like I saw the one you're talking about where a creepy girl in the elevator, and I saw one where there was a girl on a dock right under a light, and the light is shining down her. As two guys like walk up to her, and then she starts running at them, and they run away screaming because they're freaked out because she looks like the girl from The Ring. What's her name? Whatever her name was. Samara. Thank you. And all I kept thinking was, now if they stop dead in their tracks and punch her in the face, is that okay? Or
yes. If a little girl ghost enters my elevator, if my reaction isn't to turn around in fear, it is to lash out with a flurry of kicks and punches that would leave her broken.
Come on, man. Ghost
and I wouldn't feel an ounce of regret because she had it coming.
Well, I'm saying in the real world, like, can you get arrested? Can you explain that to the cop? Like, hey, she was running at me looking like Samara.
Watch the tape.
It's on video, yep.
Watch the tape.
Yep.
I dare you to come
I didn't ask for this. She just scared the bejesus out of me. My flight or fight reactions kicked in.
Give
and
my
I just
shoe
kicked
back.
The crap out of her.
I mean, I remember seeing a little internet video of a guy walking past one of those big trash bins, and all of a sudden someone who was inside of it jumps up wearing this costume to scare the person right walking next to him. Yeah, he just punches him right in the face.
Without even thinking about it.
Without a thought. That's what we do. We either flight or fight. But I'm more of a flyer.
Me too. My first instinct would never be to punch. I don't think I've ever thrown a real punch.
My first would be to punch and claw and cut. Yeah.
Brian and
I stunned the crap out of them. Then I got a better chance when I haul ass.
Just don't do any of the stuff in Texas because you will get shot.
Yeah.
That is true. Rawr, poof. Oh, shit.
Halloween
must suck in
dead.
Texas.
Years ago, I was in San Francisco, and on Fisherman's Wharf, there's this bridge going from, it's just a road, it's just got a paved concrete wall. And so it's probably 20, 30 yards long. There's nothing from one end of this cement little bridge to the other. And there was this guy sitting there he was dressed and he had his face painted and stuff, but he was just sitting there with two bushy limbs on both sides of him in the middle of this walkway on the side, and people would walk by and he would just open them up and come like, he's not even camouflaged. I mean, you can see a person there and he's got these brushes over him, and people just, I guess because people are so much in their own little world, and if they're tourists, they're checking out everything, and they don't realize this bush should not be growing in the middle of this concrete bridge.
As a rule, yeah.
But it was brilliant. You were so much. I guess he was just so much in the open that he was actually kind of camouflaged, and it was just hilarious to stand there and watch him scare people as they walk by.
That's funny. All right, well, let's get to our list. Let's get to our do's and don'ts, and we can go as long as you guys got them. As long as they're entertaining, we can do them. Basically, we're going to go round robin until we run out of these. Everyone has a list of things that piss them off when watching a scary movie, when they see characters do something. Cliches that always happen. But we think as viewers, we always have the right solutions. And generally, we're going to find out if we do or if we're just dumb to begin with. Kind of works like this. For every don't, like, for example, don't open that closet door. Instead, you have to offer a counter. Do take a baseball bat and swing at the door just to be safe. And you can't just say run outside for every answer because that would just be way too easy. We assume you've ran as much as you can run generally. So we're going to go Justin, Brian, Scott, me. Justin, Brian, Scott, me. So Justin, what's your first do and don't?
Don't try and save stupid friends. They're only going to get you killed. Do let natural selection work itself out.
It's a Darwin advice.
Do not be a hero for dumb people.
Actually, that one, mine comes off now. All right, I had that one. All right, who's next? Brian?
Yeah, all right. Let's split up.
Yeah.
This is dumb. This is, there's
we'll cover more ground this way.
Right.
Which never makes any sense.
Exactly. There's safety in numbers here. So you got to, stick together. So even if somebody dies horribly, you, A, have a chance to still get away, and B, there's witnesses to back up your obviously unbelievable story.
Yep.
I see a common thread here. Selfish sons of bitches is what you are.
Don't you love it, too, when you do watch a movie and someone says, hey, let's split up, and another person says, no, that's dumb. You're like, yes!
Yeah, but then they still do it, which then I go back to, you're dumb. Why are you so dumb? Scotty?
Don't read a language that you don't understand, or written language that you don't speak or read, especially when it's written on some old document or some dusty old book.
Mm-hmm.
Do go ahead and Google Translate that shit.
No.
I like that.
You do burn it. You cut the book up into pieces. You bury it. You get as far away from it. You don't open the covers past the fleshy hardcover that's all sewn together. No. Don't even open it. Just
hey, guys, this looks like it was made with human skin. Oh,
no.
Let's touch it.
If it don't burn, bury it.
I like Scott's idea. I want to see what it translates to.
Yeah, because it's
you're all going to die.
It's fine, right?
That's funny.
I mean, I was watching the remake of Evil Dead recently, and God, that thing works. Mm-hmm. But as soon as that blonde-haired, bespectacled dude opens the book, right there it says, "Do not read this."
Yeah. Like several times.
What does he do? He goes on to read it all.
He's dyslexic.
He deserves it to die.
He's dyslexic. He has a problem. It's not fair. All right, my first one. Don't stay in the house after you notice your toy clown is dancing on its own or spirit is telling you to get out. Do move the hell out as fast as you can and sell the place to an unsuspecting couple for a profit.
Never mention what happened.
Never mention it. Full disclosure doesn't include dirty clowns and voices in your house. Sorry.
Right.
You're good. Justin?
Don't stand in the middle of the room and look around for what might be coming. Do get into a corner or get by a wall to limit the avenues in which death can come at you.
Check your corners.
Check your six, your corners. Don't stand in the middle of the woods yelling for your friends either.
Peripherals, people. Peripherals.
If your friend ain't with you, consider them dead.
Get new friends.
Get new friends. There's all sorts of, there's Friendster, there's Facebook,
Tinder.
You'll find new folks.
Tinder can even help.
I think that Justin's theme of all of his are just be selfish.
Yeah, just save yourself.
Save yourself.
Brian?
I've got a couple more, but they're more of the, I guess, maybe notes to the director.
That's fine.
Or writer.
Just one at a time.
Type of stuff here. All right. Don't it's the wind. You know, if I've lived in some pretty windy areas and I've heard the occasional branch rubbing against the side of the house or the roof or something. And it may raise some questions on a very rare occasion as far as, what could that noise be? So for the most part, if the problem outside is ever the wind, you're pretty much in Twister, not a horror movie. So it's more like probably more like Friday the 13th. So blame something else. Maybe it's fireworks outside or construction, something along those lines. Whatever the case is, whatever. But set it up and blame something else.
So what does your do? Because that
the
was
wind
like
the wind gets a bad rap.
That was like a book report.
Do blame something else.
Okay, there we go.
Do blame something else. Blame fireworks. Blame construction.
If you hear, I'm going to swallow your soul, that ain't the wind.
Right.
A house doesn't
grow. It speaks a language.
If it speaks a language.
Yeah, if it speaks any language, get out.
It's so weird how the wind sounds like my Ozzy Osbourne record when I play it backwards. That's so odd.
Is that Latin? It's Latin wind. Weird.
Yeah, if it's Latin, run.
Scotty?
Must be El Nino.
More like El Nino getting out.
Don't use
different Latin.
Don't use a firearm as a weapon. Someone with a melee weapon is probably like a knife or a golf club is going to own you if you use a gun. Because it seems like that way. The people that survive are the ones that don't have the weapon you would think would survive.
Well, if you're 100% sure it's loaded and cocked and the safety's not on, then...
No, it's not going to work. When does it ever work? You always get taken down by somebody with a lesser weapon if you have a firearm.
So what do they do?
An axe, a bat, and a machete. You know what those three things have in common? No ammunition.
You don't run out.
You don't run out. And guns, Most people are bad shots as it is. Amp up your adrenaline to 11. Get that hand shaking like you got Parkinson's. You ain't hitting squat.
Do invest in some kind of stab-proof clothing because you'll be just fine.
Like go to the store, right? Hold that thought.
Well, I mean, if you you got to be prepared, right? That's what the Boy Scouts say.
Do they make swimsuits out of Kevlar?
Oh,
there you go.
They're not quite as sexy, but they do make them.
It depends on what cut you get.
That's true.
All right, don't try to take on the massive killer who you just personally witnessed popping your friend's head off like a daisy. Instead, do run and treat the woods like an obstacle course. Get the heck out. Get out.
Treat it like an episode of Wipeout.
Just
but don't fall as much.
No, yes.
Oh, that's funny. Justin.
Don't knock the bad guy down and then just run away.
Double tap.
Do keep beating, stabbing, shooting, whatever it is you're doing. Keep doing that until they're tomato paste.
Yeah, that's a good call.
When they are down, that is when you take advantage.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, ask the Red Viper.
Yeah, exactly. Don't get
not
caught.
a horror movie, but
Brian.
Don't monologue.
Exactly.
I got you. You're dead. Oh, shit.
Don't wipe the steam off the mirror in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Anytime, especially if there's another face or something else in the mirror, don't just keep wiping and turn around and look to see what's behind you. Just smash the mirror and just run like hell. Just get out of there.
Mine's kind of similar, actually. Don't own a medicine cabinet.
Just don't even bother owning it.
Just a regular old shelf that you can just see without having to open a mirror or a door or anything on it. Just.
And shower curtains got to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least be clear.
Yeah.
Be clear.
Be transparent.
Don't invite your friends to hang out at the site of a previous massacre on the anniversary of that slaughter.
Yeah.
Be smart enough to stay out of that zip code on the night of the anniversary. Some bad shit's got to go down.
I think be aware just of your local area's bad happenings and when those anniversaries are coming up. Because you don't want to be around.
Justin, you said you're out, right?
I have used up mine.
Brian?
Don't trip while running away. I mean, if I'm frightened enough to run, I'm not looking back until I'm probably crossing the county line about 6 or 7 counties away.
Yeah, don't look over your shoulder. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I'm not looking over my shoulder. I'm running Forrest Gump style. I'm just running and running and running and running, and just And if you have to slow them down somehow, because I mean, you've got to let the inevitably just walking or strolling mass murderer or ghost catch up somehow. I mean, just do something different. Quicksand.
Quicksand.
A foam pit from like a gymnastics building or something. A pool full of Jello. I don't care. Just don't trip.
That just got sexy. A pool full of Jello sounds awesome.
I just strawberry.
Think about it. Just like sit and think for a minute. When's the last time you were running or even walking so clumsily that you tripped and didn't catch yourself and keep from falling?
I got to tell you, I jog and I've hit the dirt quite frequently from roots and whatnot. I have gotten a real appreciation for horror movies over the last couple of years because that one actually makes sense to me. In the dark, in the woods, trying to run, you hit roots. You really do.
Why are you running in the dark?
Because I'm being chased in the dark.
He's man packing and they're trying to pack some man.
Scott?
When someone gives you some kind of important advice, don't ignore or forget it. Do jot down a little note or put a reminder in your phone. Just saying.
It kind of reminds me of that trailer for that new horror movie, The Forest. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as it came up and it said, stay on the path, I knew, bitch is getting off this path as quickly as possible.
They always do. Oh, this way is quicker. It's not marked. How is that quicker? Why are these dirt roads always faster? I don't understand.
It doesn't say bypass. There's no bypass that's the width of a bicycle.
It's so funny. Don't keep talking to someone in a Halloween mask that refuses to answer you. Do punch
good one.
punch them in the junk over and over until they hit the ground, and then just keep punching them until they make a sound you realize or understand.
Yeah, you're not Tony Stark. You can't talk to the bad guy just and have a little cocktail.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cute when you scare the crap out of me. No, it's not. Hit them. Keep hitting them. Bob
if you see a clown staring at you and you say, "Hey, what's up?" and he doesn't give you the head nod back, run. Don't walk up and try to engage him further.
Brian, you have any more?
No, I'm done.
Scott?
When waking up from a dream, don't assume that you're in the real world.
You're just in another dream.
Yeah. Do watch Inception at least once a year to remind yourself of the distinct possibility that you will be waking up in another dream.
My mind is blown. It's a good
what
one.
What if we merged Inception with Nightmare on Elm Street?
Does the top spin? Because that's really all I need
Whatever.
to know. All right. Freddy
Until these
cuts
claws reach out and grab it at the end.
I got two more. I don't know how many more do you got, Scott? Do you have any more?
You know how in a movie when you finally get that chance to kick the bad guy's ass?
Mm-hmm.
When that does happen, don't use the line, "This is for blank," and "This is for blank." Whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about?
Like
This is for my mom.
Oh, yeah.
And this is for my sister. Whatever it is. It's not necessary. Who honestly doesn't know why they're getting their ass kicked? And
It's in the time for chit chat.
Yeah. And if by some strange reason they really don't know, then leave them a note.
On their dead body.
On their dead body.
All right, I got two more. One, don't bring home creepy-ass dolls, nor keep dolls that anyone tells you has moved or talked to them. Do light those dolls on fire. Maybe sprinkle some gasoline, get a good blaze going. Burn the shit out of them. Torch them. They're done.
Yeah.
Or just go Fargo and wood chipper.
Oh, even better. If you've got a wood chipper, there goes the doll. If they say, I can't get it out of the house, you pick it up and you walk it out. Trick it. Whatever you got to do. I don't care.
Or you move.
Exactly. Move. Don't tell the doll. They're not going to know until it's, hey, why am I still in the medicine cabinet? All right. My last one. Don't ignore warnings from locals. They live there. If a few of them keep saying your new home or vacation spot is a death trap, do find better accommodations. It's important to your life. It really is. I never understand that. If I go to a new town and some guy's on the corners, it's a death curse, I start looking into the history a little bit. Like, you know what? And then if 3 people say it, I leave. I'm done. Can't do this anymore.
Basically, if your real estate agent gives you a house that's too good to be true, it is.
Always.
Don't get that Amityville house. Keep looking.
Exactly.
Oh, you know what? I do have one more.
Okay.
Don't stare. Well, this one kind of was alluded to earlier with Justin's don't be in the middle of a room, but don't just sit and stare at whatever impending danger is coming towards you without moving.
Mm-hmm.
Do calculate some kind of responsible escape strategy that keeps you and those around you safe.
Well, wait, around us? Because I thought we all decided that
That's you guys. You guys are all the selfish ones.
They're cast to
I'm
the
still
wind.
looking out for my buddies.
Well, it will buy you some
Good,
more
you'll
time.
be the first to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be the one that I shoot in the leg, so you're so you're slower to run out of there than I am.
Or just kick your kneecap out.
Now it's time for our listeners' thoughts. You guys got them? We posted these on Facebook. Go ahead, guys.
David McGraw says, don't go into the bedroom or shower with the beautiful girl with the unbelievable body. Do reconsider your sexual orientation or join the priesthood.
That's good.
Amy Hutchison says, don't run up the freaking stairs or down them, for that matter, to any place that isn't ground level, unless you have easily accessible stairs leading outside.
That's a really good point.
Do invest in a Jodie Foster panic room and run straight into that shit.
Both valid points.
Both very valid, yeah.
John Parrish says, for God's sakes, people, don't split up to investigate the house. Do stay in a tight phalanx formation, preferably with automatic weapons.
We're playing Left 4 Dead.
Or 300.
That's awesome. I like that.
Josh Steinman says, don't fall while running. There's Brian's. Because of poor shoe choice. High heels or sandals. Do wear some gall-damn tennis shoes. So did he say gall-damn?
He says gall-damn. Yeah.
Gall-damn tennis shoes so a branch doesn't cost you your life.
It's a good call. Good call.
Yeah, high heels and horror movies do not mix.
Who goes camping in high heels?
Girls.
Well, you may not be camping, but inevitably you will end up in the woods at some point.
I have seen girls camping in high heels. That's a true story. I don't understand it either.
I might want to go on your camping trips again.
No, it doesn't sound so bad, does it?
Man, packing sounds pretty good now all of a sudden.
Anyway, Wayne Edwards says, don't sit or lay next to the zombie thinking it's dead for real. And it ain't. I just started watching The Walking Dead. I know I am way late to the party. Don't hate me, Brian. Do pickaxe or arrow everybody that growls or moans as their form of conversation. That's a good rule to live by.
Yeah, good plan.
Andrew Jeeves says, don't open that door where the monster's hiding. Instead, leave while you still can.
Dustin Baker says, don't drink, smoke, do drugs, or have premarital sex. You will die. No exceptions. Do be a virgin. Oh, and being a woman helps too. Those virgin nerdy guys don't make it sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it took us that long to get to don't have sex.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, don't have sex, don't smoke pot, don't drink, because that's when...
What do you do? Don't drink, don't smoke. What do you do?
Adamant.
Wow.
Marcus Shelton says, don't be the only black guy. Do pay attention to the creepy townie that tells you to stay away from X. The Walking Dead burns through black guys like a fat kid eats potato chips. That is
right
true,
about that.
sadly. If you're going to a party, make sure that there are more than one of you, whatever you are, at that party.
And the last one comes from Brad Peterson. He says, don't take the back roads, stick to major highways.
Thank you, yes.
Why do they do that in movies? Do you know?
Because the scenery. You know, you want to take that scenic route.
Is that what it is, or are they trying to get there? They think it's going to be a shortcut, or what? Is it the scenery? Is that usually what it is?
If I was going to take those back roads, it would be for the scenery.
We did have one that came in late. It said from Paula Sell, if the bad guy, person, is down and you think they're dead, don't run away. Tie them up, throw furniture on them, shoot them a few more times because they are never dead.
If you can, draw and quarter them.
Like take the time to just line them up.
Well, you got to get the 4 horses, yes, and then you got to get the rope. But I think it's worth it.
Hey, if they took the time to come back from the dead or from some supernatural place or something like that, yeah, I can. It's the least I can do is take the time to cut them up into 4 or 5 pieces, take them to different parts of the world, and burn each individual part.
Wow, that was really specific. That was oddly specific.
Just saying, I've thought it out.
I guess. Guess what? We're sticking with horror. And also, this idea spawned from Ken in Chicago on Twitter. So thanks, Ken. We're just giving you a little kudos there. Who asked us which is scarier, body horror or a psychological terror? Essentially, what terrifies you more, losing control of your body or your mind? So we're going to talk about that because that's a fascinating question in terms of what really scares you. So how do you define psychological terror, and what are like a thing or a couple things, not 16 things, that immediately come to mind to explain that for you?
Psychological terror is something I feel like you see them more often in thrillers. That's where you have an individual or individuals who are trying to taunt somebody and mess with their mind. They're making them feel like somebody is there and then something doesn't happen. And then they think they hear something here and then nothing happens. This is just an example. And then when they're not expecting it, that's when something happens. And it's just kind of that buildup of tension of them messing with their mind or making them think that things are happening when they're really not. That's the kind of thing that I really get drawn into. And it creates a great deal of tension for me because I'm like, is it real? Is it really happening? Or are they just kind of imagining it? Have they gotten so paranoid that now we're just seeing their paranoia reflected on screen?
Yeah. I like the way you kind of describe that. I would actually try to be a little bit more succinct with it by saying that psychological horror is that thing where you don't actually see the villain. You're actually just spending more time with your protagonist and and seeing how whatever is affecting the protagonist really really take them down darker roads. I do enjoy the genre, and like when I think about movies that stand out in this genre for me, I think about like the first 20 minutes of When a Stranger Calls.
Oh God, that's so
Yep.
good.
Yep.
You don't see anything, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. And the more recently, I think Hereditary did a really good job with it too.
What, like with the head? Where'd that head go? Rolled over there.
She was asking for it.
She really does. She was kind of begging for it. So you really think that Hereditary is which part of that would you say is the most psychological?
Well, the first two acts are primarily psychological.
Yeah, they don't really show a whole lot, do they?
No, they really don't. Yeah. And you're going down this road with Toni Collette that you think where she's losing her mind and she's suffering from all these like guilt and whatever, and she starts to see things, and the same thing happens to her son, and then it's not until the final act, and even then it's like the final 10 minutes of the movie where it really loses its mind, and that's when the crowd goes wild.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with somebody recently, and I was explaining how I felt one of my favorite movies is more of a psychological horror than it is just a horror movie, and the movie's Jaws, which obviously everybody's seen Jaws, right? And it's been talked about probably a lot this summer because it's, summer movie, summer blockbuster, Jaws pops up. But if you really, really think about it, psychological horror is something where it gets in your head, and that's the thing that scares you. And I can't think of a movie that scared me more psychologically than Jaws, because it made me fearful to even get in an ocean. To me, that's when I think psychological. I mean, it not only gets in the characters' heads, it gets in my head. It affects my level of comfortability. And Jaws doesn't really show a ton of gore. There isn't really a lot of actual things that you see until midway through, really. Most of it is anticipation. It's what happens underneath the water. The scene where the guys swim into the boat and you see the jaws of Jaws, right? Opening up. When you see the jaws of Bruce opening up and then snatching him underwater, that is a horrifying thing to see. And it hits my brain. Even though I don't see the gore of it and I don't actually see much happening, that was psychological to me because I was terrified of water. Literally just water because of that movie. And I was terrified while watching the movie because of things I don't see. You don't even really see the shark until midway through the movie. And I was still scared like the whole time. So to me, that really is a psychological thriller or horror. I think of Silence of the Lambs is an easy one to throw out there because Hannibal Lecter, just his conversations are so unnerving and they get under your skin. They just really, really kind of ripple you in that respect. Candyman is one. Tony Todd just had his voice, for whatever reason, the way that he spoke, his cadence, all of that was really terrifying to me in a way. Like the movie, none of the gore stuff scared me at all. Bees a little bit, but that's a whole nother story. Like anything with bees scares me psychologically. But whenever his speaking and his cadence and everything else, that was just so unnerving to me. Very similar to Hellraiser, Pinhead. The gore never bothered me. Pinhead bothered me. The visual aesthetic, that got in my head. So, I think psychological can mean more than what most people apply it to. To me, it's very much, does it get in my head and scare me? Gore to me is more like I see it. It makes me, and we'll talk more about gore in a second, but psychological is, yes, it's in the characters. It's in their heads. I mean, Gone Girl is a perfect example of a psychological thriller. Like that's very horrifying because we've all dated somebody that crazy. So we all get it. And men and women, on both sides of the coin. And so, those kinds of things can get with you, but it stays with you. And that to me is also a psychological horror of sorts. Anything that stays with you.
Yeah, I would add in Misery, Rosemary's Baby, even Hush.
Oh, because those whacking the legs? Whacking the feet?
Whenever they do something that it's the terror of reality in many ways. And it's not about what I think to your point where you're not actually watching anything physically happen, but you get to watch the reaction of your main character and the fear that they have that someone's watching them, or someone is so obsessed with them and that increases their paranoia or their fear. And that escalation of emotions, the audience then begins to feel. So, I think to your other point, I think everybody defines psychological horror a little bit differently based on their own fears, because it's what taps into your mind. Like you said, Jaws was psychologically terrifying for you, whereas maybe something else scares somebody and it literally terrifies them, like 8-legged freaks. Maybe that's a psychological terror for them. I don't know.
I think it counts. I mean, there's different ways you can put it. You can think of it, I think. And if you think of like slasher movies, I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th and any movie where kids get killed at a summer camp. Why? I don't know. I had a bad summer camp experience and it's really none of your business. We're not going to talk about that anymore. But I was happy with a lot of those dispatched victims. But what really, the movies never scare me in terms of the gore. I always find that just funny. But whenever they're running through the woods, that's a real thing. That can freak me out if it's done really well. Blair Witch has nothing gory in it whatsoever. And I know people, Blair Witch is so tame. Shut up. If you saw it when it came out, maybe you're one of those special ones that weren't bothered. But I was scared. I was freaked out in several parts of that movie. And there's nothing gory about it. It is all psychological because it really just messes with your head. John, you saw it in the theater, right? Did you see it? I think you saw it in the theater.
Oh, yeah. I definitely saw that one in the theater. And it was like, I've never been so afraid of a pile of sticks in my life.
Right, exactly. And a guy looking in the corner and you're like, oh my God, he's looking in the corner. And, that just seems like such a ridiculous thing, but they did such a good build up to that moment that it pays off completely.
Even the marketing, it's like those people, it really happened to those people. They're doing press junkets and they're talking to people. No, it's real.
Yeah, that part was weird because I did have friends that said, no, it's real. And I'm like, I literally saw an interview with them. They're fine. No, man. That was before the movie. I'm like, why would they be doing press for a movie that ain't out yet? That's weird. But...
Right. One way or the other, they're doing press after they made it.
One of my favorite scenes in film history is Reservoir Dogs, the whole torture scene. And that is gore, I would say, to, I guess, a very small degree. But none of the gore is what bothers me. It is completely just a person completely incapacitated, which is a personal fear. The fact that you have no control of your life, someone torturing him. And it's more about the dancing around the torture. Like, what's he going to do? What is he going to do to that guy? What is it going to be that he's going to do to this guy? What pain is he going to inflict? That whole leading up to it is very psychological to me. Like that is what freaks me out. Cutting the ear off, that's just a cool movie thing to a cool song. The actual psychological terror of it, to me, which did freak me out when I first watched it, it was very unnerving. I didn't know what he was going to do, and it was really just unnerving to watch in many respects. All right, so let's move on to the gore or bodily injury horror. I guess you can look at it either way, but it's really gore because your body parts are hurting, cuts, slash, fingernails being pulled out.
Oh, I was going to say fingernails are my...
Yeah. John, where are you at with gore, body injury horror?
Oh my God. Psychological has its merits. Gore also has its merits depending on how it's done.
Sure.
At this point in cinema, it's one of those things where you can tell the bad and you can tell the good, and sometimes they're both good and sometimes they're both bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you have tons of entrails, that's never scary to me.
Right.
Lots of intestines just laying around, blah. I'm just holding, guys looking very dramatic as he's holding his guts. I'm like, he would be dead. This is silly. This is just dumb.
But take out somebody's eye and I'm like, no! Not the eye. God damn it.
Pluck it out with chopsticks.
There is so many movies that I could think of that just do it terribly. But again, it's one of those things that you either get it really like Hostel is one that I can think of that got it done right. And even the sequel where it's like, they can't possibly do this any worse. They did, and it's fine. Or, the Human Centipede is another one where it's like, you can't. you can't make this worse. And they found a way to make it both a bad movie afterwards. Like the two sequels are both bad and worse at the same time as far as scarier.
What really interests me about this conversation and where it took a turn is that you've seen both the sequels to The Human Centipede, but you haven't seen The Greatest Showman.
I still haven't seen that yet.
You took time out of your day to watch a guy sew a mouth onto an ass. Yeah, so spoiler alert, that's what Human Centipede's about. Think about it. But you didn't take the time to watch Rebecca Ferguson dazzle you with a song, or Hugh Jackman do a little dance. That's where you are in your cinema achievements.
See, I was very afraid that watching The Greatest Showman would make me like a little bit happy, and I can't afford to feel that way right now.
Well, now it makes sense. It's all Human Centipede. So keep watching those sequels, and if they keep cranking them out, you'll just watch them all.
Right, because at least it's like par for the course for me.
So disturbing you are. Amanda, where are you on gore?
I like gore. I have no qualms with seeing it on screen. There are some things like fingernails that get under my skin more than others. But it's not something that scares me. And I feel like that's where my defining line is in this question, is if we're talking about what's scary, gore is not scary to me. You know, sometimes it can make you go, ooh and ah and ugh, but it's not something that terrifies me. It's not something that makes me shiver or anything. It's the psychological horror that messes with me. Gore is something that I think is, for whatever reason, it is enjoyable to watch on screen for horror fans.
Isn't that weird?
It is weird, very
right?
weird.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about us as people, but a lot of the people that I know that are, you know, really big horror fans are also some of the sweetest people I know and the kindest people. So,
yeah,
you know, there's
like serial killers would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. And introverts.
Fantasies being played out on screen.
That's so you don't do it.
Exactly.
That's Jenny from The Office. That's what it's out of my system. I don't have to think about it anymore. Yay, I'll go listen to some true crime so I at least know how to do it correctly.
But it's one of those things where people who don't like horror movies, I feel like they get more creeped out by the gore for whatever reason. You know, if they're not really somebody who watches it, they can handle the psychological portion of it better than they can handle the gore. And I don't know why that is scarier to them. I don't know why gore in general is scary at all. It could be because I grew up with a very clear understanding. You know, I was taught and shown the behind the scenes of scary movies and how it's all not real. So maybe in the back of my mind, I just recognize this isn't real. But I guess that's my question back to you guys is, what makes it scary for people? Why is, you know, seeing a slasher flick like Friday the 13th, why does that scare someone?
It's you're not in control of the situation, I think, is a part of it. I think very much a part of it is, this is a situation where I live my life and I'm in control of everything I do, but here's a situation where a madman is going to kill me and he's going to cut off a part of my person and I can't do anything about it. So there's that fear. Like if you go back to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's a lot of gore in there. A lot of it's implied, but there's still a lot of gore in it. And that is one where it terrified me because it was so realistic. It was so visceral, and it really felt like I'm not going to escape this, you know, in your mind. And the horror, every time you saw somebody get killed, it really felt like, oh my God, this could happen to me. And then you're walking around and you're like, So just the idea of a killer on the loose and you have no control over the situation, and then seeing what they do to the people that they're attacking, I think that sits with a lot of people. I mean, there's definitely horror movies that have worked that magic with me in terms of the terror of it all.
Well, yeah, jumping on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, some of those kills were just like pure brutality. And the thing that really gets you about that is that it's not some sort of like demon killer or like ghost monster thing. Those are real people. Those are real people that you will find in the middle of nowhere, you know, on I drive down these streets in North Carolina lately, and I'm like, hey, that's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. Look at everything that's in the front yard. There's like 15 cars. I can't imagine that house needs 15 cars of all those different years. And then the way some of those deaths happen, like especially in the remake, I don't know why it hit me harder in the remake than in the original, but that first kill where Leatherface slides that door open, brains a dude, and he's just on the ground and his whole body is convulsing from the head trauma.
Yeah.
I imagine that's exactly what it would be like with that much head trauma from a friggin' sledgehammer. It wouldn't be like, boom, your body's still, there's got to be something firing in what's left of his brain to be doing all that. And it's got to be excruciating. And it's just, ugh.
Yeah. There's a movie I love, and I think I've mentioned it once or twice before, but not often because it makes me embarrassed to admit it. But it's a movie called Relentless. It stars Judd Nelson, where he's a serial killer. And whenever he kills somebody, and yes, I said Judd Nelson, goddammit, and he's very good in that one particular role. But the way that he kills people is that he basically finds them wherever they are. He puts the weapon in their hand, and then he makes them do it to themselves. And so you basically watch the knife go in. You watch them choke themselves. It's very visceral in that way. And for whatever reason, that one always kind of got me. That was terrifying to me because you're watching a killer inflict pain to your own person without your control. It's a lot of it to me is like the lack of self-control and the damage that the weapons and the person are doing to your body. And that's just one example where it really got to me. And that wasn't so much psychological because the knife is going in the woman's chest. And I'm like, oh my God, if somebody came up behind me, they could make me do that. Oh my God, that's terrifying. It just gets in your head.
I think there is an element of psychological horror though, because it's somebody who's removing your ability to choose, your ability to actually decide what's going to happen. And they've taken that control from you in a much different way than if they were to just come up to you and stab you, because you're sitting there in that individual's shoes as a viewer. You're sitting in that person's shoes, the innocent person, and you're having to watch them make that choice. And so you can feel that terror that they must be thinking and feeling, and how much fear they must have and what they have to go through to get to the point where they do what this killer is asking of you. Killer by association or whatever.
Yeah. And to jump off that, another part of it, another piece of it, kind of connecting the tissue on that, is that we're all very familiar with our own bodies, right? Like a lot of movies or television, when you're watching them, it's all fantasy. You're not a really cool cop. You're not a really great doctor. You're not a really cool lawyer. But whenever you see pain inflicted on a person, pulling a fingernail, we've all done that, or we've almost done it, or we thought about doing it, and what it would feel like. Somebody stubs a toe in a movie. That can really create a visceral reaction because we all know exactly what that feels like. A lot of it is we have fingers and toes and eyeballs and ears and noses and hearts. Yeah, everything else that can, and we know that would hurt. That would really hurt. So if we see it on screen, oftentimes it can correlate in our brain and be like, if that would really hurt if that was me. It would really hurt to lose an eyeball. I think that would be very painful. So I can envision the loss of that eye.
Or, if you get like a lead pipe shoved up your bum hole because it's a revenge film, you can think, ouch, this probably wouldn't feel good.
Depends on your perspective.
Hey, what you do on your time is your business.
Exactly. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, because there's a lot of things that I think when you think bodily injury and gore, like a lot of gore, subtle gore gets me way more than anything. Like I was talking about entrails where somebody's just holding their guts. That never does anything. I'm just like, it's so ridiculous. If you're watching Friday the 13th and you get a crazy kill, that's more just fun to watch than it is. For whatever reason, don't judge me. It's just more fun to watch than anything else. But then there are other ones where it's just very, I don't know, just gets under your skin. I don't know. You watch Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th Part 2 is the only one that really, really gets under my skin. and it's just more because of how it's shot. But a lot of the kills are more intense, I think, because of just a lot of the kills just feel more personal in nature. So when there is something gory, it feels like that could be me. I could be in that situation. There's one where he kills a guy in a wheelchair. It's really kind of a sad scene. And the same token, the gore really impacted the whole shot. You know, a lot of times that can really impact a shot. If you do it right. If you overdo it, makes the movie look cheesy. Sleepaway Camp. Just saying. All right. So we covered psychological, we covered gore. So that's the question. What's scarier for you? I think we kind of talked about it a little bit, but you got to pick one. What scares you more and why?
For me, for sure, psychological. The gory horror is more just like usually I think you put it nicely where it's fun. You like, hoorah, the crazier the gore, the kill, you're just like, whoa, that's creative and that's crazy and that's fun.
Yeah. Miles Teller should be in more horror movies.
Yeah. Psychological actually scares me. And that's where my line is. Gore does not scare me. Psychological actually affects me. And so, it's got to be the winner.
I'm going to have to agree that psychological will scare me more. However, gore is a lot more fun to see in the theater.
Okay. Well, that makes sense, but which is scarier though? Like you're saying psychological.
Which is scarier psychological, of course. Like, you mentioned Gone Girl, and I remember after I saw Gone Girl, I didn't sleep well for like a month and a half, 2 months, because I was like, I was having flashbacks.
Who am I living with?
Yeah. It's more like you start reflecting on your past, right? And you're like, oh, they could come back.
Yeah.
They can always come back.
I'm telling you. I thought that movie was a documentary for a while. I'm just like, are we sure? Are we sure this is fiction? Ben Affleck might be in a documentary. I don't know. Same way. I mean, it usually psychological will get me more, but on the same token, man, I don't get. Here's what I would say. I think when I was younger, up until probably like my mid-20s, psychological really got me way more than anything else. But as I've gotten older, anything that's a real painful death or infliction of pain, you pull a fingernail off of anybody, I can't look at it. I legitimately can't look at it. I can't watch a bee sting. Like when somebody gets stung a lot with bees because I'm phobic of bees. So, I mean, there are certain things that are terrifying to me. And fingernails getting pulled off or toenails getting pulled off is by far the worst thing I can watch. Like that scares me more than anything Hannibal Lecter could ever say, because I can walk away from words. I can't walk away from somebody pulling my fingernails off.
Well, you could, but it would hurt even more.
That would be kind of adding to the problem, I guess. Yeah.
to help with that, like, we're of a certain age. When you trip over a branch, that's going to affect you for a while.
Yeah.
And all you're thinking about is like, wow, that bodily injury that's happening to that poor person is going to be the rest of their life. They're going to be feeling that.
I've been that poor person. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So I'm totally with you on that.
Can I add in an additional category of fear, which is probably my most significant fear factor?
No, that's how you would do it. We get an extra episode out of that. We milk it, but you can mention it, but you're not going to
I'll mention it.
Okay.
Supernatural, especially as I've gotten older, things with ghosts or, creepy things like that. For whatever reason, they legitimately terrify me. It is so hard for me to sit through something when it's supernaturally. And it's weird because I'm very agnostic. It's not like I, pray to a higher power or, genuinely believe in ghosts. I think the possibilities for anything exist. But you would think that I would have that deep fear if I truly believed in it and that Satan was sending ghosts back to Earth to terrorize people as demons. But that's not where I'm at. It's just for whatever reason, man, if I see a ghost and they creep up behind somebody, I might pee my pants.
See, I am so not scared of anything ghost related. For whatever reason, The Conjuring got me a couple times. So, I mean, there's some good jump scares and stuff like that, but My God, I don't believe in ghosts, so I just don't get scared in ghost movies. And if I had a ghost, I'd probably just walk around naked just to make him leave. I mean, there's nothing really about ghosts that do anything for me. Nothing. So, but that would maybe fall under psychological, because I think you got to be crazy to believe in ghosts. Ha!
That's rude.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to be crazy, but I just don't. I don't. So psychological seems like the win, although I do think I'm probably more affected by gore nowadays, just because of the fingernails thing. It's really a problem. If I see it, man, it really ruins my day. I will actually cut my fingernails. I always cut my fingernails. Like after I see a scene like that, I will go cut them because I'm just like, nah, that's going to have to go. I don't want it ripped off on accident.
There's only so many times you can watch America's Funniest Home Video to see some poor dad get hit in the nards for you to be like, okay, that's enough of that.
Exactly. This is not funny anymore because I know it's me.
Right.
I've got a couple listener comments I want to read, and just to kind of expand the argument, I guess. Christina Flores said, gore scares me far more than psychological. So gore wins for her, especially when it's based on a true story. The very thought that there are people out there that could brutally torture, mangle, and savagely kill someone terrifies me. And that kind of goes back to my point. In this day and age, I think gore might be more affecting when done really well, just because there are so many more people that will do that sort of thing these days. It just feels like, not to go back to our age again, but when John and I were kids, there weren't a ton of, there were a few serial killers now and again that popped up, but you didn't hear about murder all the time. Now, that's the obsession with most of the world is true crime, documentaries, podcasts, whatever.
We're listening to murder while we're eating our breakfast cereal.
Yeah.
Man, I watch Criminal Minds while I'm eating my lunch. I put up my Netflix in my office, shut the door, and I just watch that terror come across my screen. And then I wonder why I have a hard time sleeping and wondering if I'm hearing a noise or if it's just the dryer. Somebody in my house. Or is it just the dryer?
Maybe it's somebody in your house doing laundry.
Come on in.
That's a weird invitation, but you're going to regret it.
If you want to do my laundry?
I didn't say your laundry. I said doing laundry. Like they're walking around, they got a sack of laundry, and they're like, oh, there's a nice place to do my clothes.
So weird.
At 3 a.m. That's fine. It's like a laundromat that I break into. Jess Dyma says psychological for sure for the long-lasting impact, but I would say bodily injury and gore has a more immediate impact. It gets that split-second visceral reaction from the audience, where psychological horror is a slower burn and really takes its time burrowing into your mind and haunting you long after the credits roll. It's like a really hot pepper. The initial burn is the gore, but that later payoff for the plumbing is all psychological.
Good point.
That's a good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I'm all for pepper
We could have just canceled this entire podcast and just read that comment, and we wouldn't have had so much discussion.
Don't think it was quite that good, but, we'll give them whatever credit you'd like. All right.
I just meant it was succinct compared to me.
Yes, that is a fact. I think, John, has Amanda gotten any more succinct since you've been gone?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Okay. Rude. Next week, Troy Heinrichs is coming back, and then there's going to be, for the first time in a long time, four hosts. We're just going to have to get a button, is what we're going to have to do, man. We're going to have to institute a button, and we'll just have to cut you off.
Troy is worse than I am. Thank you very much.
He is not.
Yes, but Troy is interesting.
Whoa! I want to cast my vote to kick John off the island.
Wow.
That one, I felt it in here, in my heart. It hurt.
Oh, you don't have a heart there.
Oh, it's funny. All right, well, remember, the next time you head to a theater, buy popcorn, because we're out. And probably going to go get some medical attention for that sick burn on Amanda.
Yeah, somebody call the wambulance, because I'm hurt.